Hello and welcome to Following On. You're either listening to us via podcast or you're watching via the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. However you're accessing us, thanks very much for spending your time with us ahead of what will be an early start for you and the commentary team. Of course, live and exclusive coverage of the 5th Test match getting underway on talkSPORT 2 from 3:30 in the morning. It's going to be simulcast across on talkSPORT between 4 and 6. And it'll be on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, so head over there and subscribe. What we know, with less than 24 hours to go until the start of the 5th Test, is that England have announced their 11 and they have made one change. Ollie Robinson misses out and Mark Wood comes in on a track that is expected to give plenty of assistance to the seam bowlers within the side. Will we see Ben Stokes bowl? Find out very shortly, because we're going to hear from Ben Stokes. He's been chatting with our very own man in the England camp. It's talkSPORT's Cameron Ponsonby.
Ben Stokes, have you decided on a team for the 5th Test match?
Yeah, we have one change from last week. Mark Wood comes back in for Ollie Robinson.
And why have you made that decision?
To be honest, we were a little bit sort of surprised when we looked at the wicket. We sort of had in our head that it was going to be a 3-seam attack. But yeah, goes to show, preconceived ideas and all that kind of thing sometimes isn't the best thing to do. But yeah, look, having the 2-seamer options with our 2 spinners, and I think it looks a really, really good wicket. Looks like it might have a bit of pace and carry, so obviously that's why we've gone with Woody.
Shoaib Bashir and Ollie Robinson are set to miss training this afternoon. Is there any worry that Bashir might not be fit for tomorrow?
No, not at the moment. I think just, Robbo and Bash just woke up with upset stomachs this morning, so we thought obviously keeping them away from the team the day before the game is the right thing to do. And
there's been a lot of talk about your own bowling with 2 seamers and potentially a 3rd seamer being of use here. Does it open the door for having a bowl yourself?
I think the way in which I've gone about that is sort of, if I do bowl, it's a bonus. Every team selection we've gone throughout this tour, it has been with me sort of not considering bowling, if that makes sense.
It's a very special Test match for Jonny Bairstow, 100 Test matches. As a teammate, as someone who's known him for so many years, how much kind of pride do you take in his achievement?
Look, I think personally the pride, is him. You look at 100 Tests, 100 ODIs, lots of T20s. It shows the longevity of Jonny, what a quality player he is. In my opinion, he's one of England's best all-format players to play the game, and we know how emotional individual Jonny is, and I think we'll see that this week, in particular, tomorrow when game day comes, and for obvious reasons. Obviously the family history with the Bairstows, his mum, his sister, his partner and his baby being here as well. So yeah, it's great that they get to share that moment with Jonny, and I'm very, very excited for him, and he deserves everything that's going to be spoken about him this week.
I know you guys don't like the phrase Bazball, but is there something about what Bairstow achieved 2 summers ago and showing what was possible with this new way of playing, where without Bairstow this team wouldn't be where it is now and have achieved what it has achieved?
Yeah, Jonny's. I mean, look, it's not just the last 2 years that Jonny's been a huge part of this team. It's been well before that, and 100 Test matches show that. And look, in terms of the mentality shift that we had 2 years ago when me and Brendan took over and tried to bring in this new way of thinking, rather than playing. I've not been overly surprised with some of the individual performance that we've seen from certain players, because I've always knew that they've had the talent to go out there and do that. It was allowing them to go out there and express themselves and show the world what they are capable of. We've all got quality players in here, we know that, but I think in particular with Jonny, and especially that 2022 summer, was incredible to watch, and he's got to take all the credit for that.
Something that's going to make this week even more special is the venue. As a player, what's it like rocking up to play a cricket match here?
It's amazing. You obviously look at that view we've got behind you there, and it actually looks fake. When you look at it, it's pretty jaw-dropping. An amazing venue for what's been a long but very, very enjoyable series. And obviously there's been a lot of noise around the Barmy Army. I think coming out in 5,000 of them. So it's going to be a great game, and I think great for the city out here as well.
And just back to the match, Jimmy obviously had a kind of tight quad in the last match. Is that all cleared up? Is there any kind of sense you might have to look after him across this Test match?
No, I think that was more of a, looking after him precaution really. When one of your bowlers just has a, sort of a tight quad as it was last week, and he's not going to bowl because of, spin was going to win us that game. It was more of the risk outweighs the reward here. So yeah, we managed him through that last day, and thankfully everything's turned out well, and yeah, he's fit to go.
Obviously, Wood's come back in for Robinson as a tactical decision. With Robinson's last Test match, it's obviously a disappointing Test match from his own point of view. Was that a difficult conversation for Brendan to have and to kind of manage that relationship, that Robinson is still in your plans kind of moving forward?
Yeah, look, Ollie Robinson is a class bowler. You know, there's a lot of disappointment around, you know, with how last week, you know, played out with him. You know, 7 months away from the game, missed the first 3, gets an opportunity, and you know, we all hope and wish that everything works out how you want it to. But you know, when you have a little niggle that affects your ability to affect the game in the way that you want to as an individual, that's obviously devastating. But as I said, you know, that we should give people who have a little niggle going into a game a lot of credit for still walking out the field and still trying to give something to the team. You can never take that away from Robbo. You know, he's always out in the field trying to influence the game, even if something's wrong or he's not quite 100% fit. So, but look, again, tactical decision, bringing Woody in. We feel like it's going to be a pretty quick wicket, it looks it. So having his pace is obviously going to help us. Just
finally, a few of the lads went to see the Dalai Lama this morning. Have you had a chance to talk to any of them about what that experience was like?
No, I haven't. I walked into the ground this morning, so I've not seen many of the lads, to be honest.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Ben.
No worries, cheers.
So that was the England skipper, Ben Stokes, speaking with talkSPORT's Cameron Ponsonby. And we're going to be hearing from him very shortly. He's chatting with Will Macpherson, really basking in the conditions, and also just being in Dharamsala, where this 5th and final Test match is taking place. There has been a little bit of illness in the camp, as you heard. Ollie Robinson and Shoaib Bashir have both pulled up. They got a little bit of tummy trouble, essentially. The fear, though, is what happens if Bashir's still got that tomorrow, because, of course, there's no Rayan Ahmed in the side. Let's head back out then to the ground where Cameron Ponsonby and the Daily Telegraph's Will Macpherson have been talking. Will, by the way, wrote the piece on Jonny Bairstow this week, so go over to the Daily Telegraph and check that out. But let's get the latest in terms of the pitch, the conditions, the mood in the England camp, and just what it's like to be in the foothills of the Himalayas with Cameron Ponsonby and the Daily Telegraph's Will Macpherson.
Welcome to talkSPORT Cricket, and most importantly, welcome to Dharamsala, and I'm going to say it, the most beautiful cricket ground in the world, bar none. I'm Cameron Ponsonby. I'm joined by the Telegraph's Will Macpherson. We have the Himalayas in the background. We have England bowling in the background. It's all just incredibly idyllic.
It is. It doesn't get much better than this, does it? I mean, kind of Cape Town's the only one that you'd think comes close, but that's not, you know, in the Himalayas. So it's, yeah, spectacular.
I remember Ben Stokes just said it looks like it's kind of painted. And I remember thinking this myself, before I knew this was actually like a real-life cricket ground. I saw photos of it. I didn't believe it was a thing. I thought it was like on a make-believe ground built by some kind of billionaire in a faraway land. And I was going to say it's somewhat close to the truth, but I don't think it is at all. Anyway, we have news for you. We have a team for tomorrow, and it's a team subject to change. Officially, we have one change of Mark Wood comes in for Ollie Robinson. Unofficially, we have Shoaib Bashir and Ollie Robinson himself feeling a bit unwell.
Yeah, they've both pulled up this morning with a dicky tummy, so they're not at training. Ben Stokes was very keen to say that this was just precautionary, that Bashir's not really a doubt for the game, but they'll be faced with an interesting decision if he does remain ill. I think it's a case of them isolating him, trying to prevent what happened to England in Pakistan last year. There's also a bit of illness among the match officials who are in the same hotel.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's just a case of getting them on their own and trying to get it through their systems.
So I was reading the Ben Stokes quotes from the written press conference after we spoke to him for talkSPORT, and he was asked, like, do you have a contingency plan for Bashir? And he kind of went, I think it'll be fine, I hope it'll be fine, we'll deal with that as and when it comes.
Yeah, I asked that question actually, and he said,
great question.
we'll essentially, it was we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It is a slightly difficult decision because they've... it would leave them essentially, assuming Robinson was in the same boat, they've then got a batsman who bowls a bit of spin in Dan Lawrence, or an uncapped fast bowler in Gus Atkinson. They've had Rayan Ahmed and Jack Leach go home on this tour and chosen not to replace them. That's kind of very England, kind of keep things tight. You know, they're backing Hartley and Bashir and saying there wouldn't be another spinner we'd need on this tour until, of course, one of them gets injured or ill on the morning of the game. I think they'd probably go for Atkinson. They said and I think they should if that's the case. But they've said they turned up here. They saw the rain at the weekend and it was torrential, and they thought, God, we're going to need 3 seamers. We're going to actually have to pick an extra seamer and only 1 spinner in India. That's unbelievable. But then they've had a look at the pitch, and it does look like a flat belter. People who've been here before, I haven't, say that the pitch looks really different from what even they were expecting. It looks like a batter's paradise, really. So, I think you'd have to pick the out-and-out bowler, which would be Atkinson.
I think it's been really interesting just walking across the outfield, even just now to record this. When you see England having bowled, or any of the seamers of this series having bowled up close this series, like the wicketkeepers are taking it with their hands pointing down around their hips or their knees. And here I just saw a Stokes bowler delivery to Ben Stokes, and it's kind of thudded into the gloves chest high. You go, wow, okay, that's what this is kind of look like. This is going to be the scenario we're playing in. I'm very excited for the potential for Gus Atkinson to debut through kind of a series of dicky tummies and just kind of Bashir gets knocked over, and it would be Robinson back in normally, you'd guess, given he had the match last time. I know there's a point of debate whether they'd have picked him again, but Robinson is himself ill as well, so he might not be available. And Atkinson, the final test match, everyone's fallen over and finally he'd get a game. But I think of this match, it's very special. There's a number of milestones. It's Ashwin's 100th test match, but it's also Jonny Bairstow's 100th test match. You interviewed him for the Telegraph, a great interview, and he spoke very openly. What does this milestone mean to him?
Yeah, I think these kind of milestones are different for every player. We listened to Ashwin yesterday, kind of play it down a bit. Ben Stokes was very much, this is just another game, when he got to that point in Rajkot a couple of weeks ago. But for Bairstow, I think it's more than just a kind of personal point in his life, a personal point in his cricket career. I think it's a family triumph for him. I would imagine most of our people watching this will be aware of his family circumstances with his father's death when Jonny was just 8, and the kind of tragic circumstances around that. The fact that Jonny kind of looks like his dad, does the same job as his dad used to do, a wicket-keeper batsman for Yorkshire and England, I think has meant that there's been a real kind of family triumph element to this. His mum has been a real rock for him. He's got a younger sister, Becky, who's also been a massive part of his life and career, and they're all here this week. It's just a massive moment for the Bairstow family as a whole. I think it's going to be very emotional, actually. I don't quite know what England have got planned yet, but I imagine there's going to be some kind of little presentation tomorrow morning. I hope the weather's like this and they'll all be in the huddle. He's got a young son now with him as well, Jonny. So yeah, it's going to be an emotional week for him. And knowing Jonny Bairstow, you wouldn't be surprised if he,
amazing,
if he get, you can almost imagine the celebration now after a lean series. A couple of people making a bit of noise around his Test match future. He's 34 now. You could just totally see it.
His son's first call memory, his dad turning up in his 100th test. I think just as a third party to the situation, I find it so refreshing and kind of enjoyable when you see an elite athlete like Bairstow saying, yes, this means something to me, and kind of going the opposite way of being like, it's not just a number, doesn't mean anything, let's keep going. With Bairstow, I think with most cricketers who reach a 100 test match, it's a kind of confirmation, it's a rubber stamp on their quality that was kind of expected. If they stayed there, they would reach it. Whereas I think with Bairstow, he's missed 50 tests since.
This could be his 153rd test,
exactly.
Not his 100th. It's amazing how much cricket he's missed through injury, really bad injuries, unfortunate injuries like the one in Sri Lanka in 2018 where he came back and scored one of his big press box hundreds, I call them, where he looks up at the press box. But
I was nervous there for a second when you.
Yeah, there's another way of talking about those kind of hundreds. But yeah, he's had injuries. He's also just been dropped loads of times.
But so exactly, it's a kind of what's the word? An achievement of resilience and perseverance as much as a confirmation of ability. Another milestone that would, I think, probably be a confirmation of ability and longevity this test match would be Jamie Anderson is 2 wickets away from 700. I know we've been talking about the pitch it looks like a belter is the word that Ben Stokes used, and it could be a batting paradise. But here over the last domestic season, during this domestic season, seamers have been dominant compared to spinners. So we'd expect Anderson to pick up those 2 wickets and reach 700, which, I mean, we talk about all the time, but it is worth reiterating just how ludicrous an achievement and bowler and player he is.
Absolutely. The other thing just to say about conditions is that Jimmy's bowling behind us still, but the ball's been moving in the air in practice in a way that it hasn't been at any other stage in the series, at any other venue. You can sort of see why that might be looking up. But yeah, Anderson, there's kind of a series of test and first-class records that kind of get set or have been set in the past, which you just know aren't going to be broken. And I just think the idea of a seam bowler getting to 700 is now just totally ludicrous. You look at that great battery of Aussie bowlers who are playing at the moment, Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, and he's got 250 odd, and he's absolutely incredible. He's in his 30s as well, so I don't think he's got a hope in hell of getting to 700. Clip that up and you never know.
Yeah, exactly.
In 10 years' time I'll look like a right idiot. But I think it's so far ahead of anyone else's. What's possible. It's just incredible. He's 41. Stokes says he's in the best condition he's ever seen him on this tour. I think last summer was a real pause for thought for Anderson. No one quite was sure why. Everything looked kind of fine, but the wickets just weren't happening. And then now he's gone away, he's got really fit, he's running in with a lot more purpose, and he's been brilliant this tour. I know he was outstanding in Vizag, and he got a foot bag to show for it.
Sure.
In the last 2 tests he's played, that hasn't been quite the case. But yeah, here, and just quietly, he's going to play 4 tests in a row in India. He's going to play 2 sets of back-to-back tests, and I just, didn't think that was possible at the start of the tour. Amazing man.
He's going to end up going to the Ashes next year, isn't he? Anyway, despite the weather, how it looks at the moment, I'm in a t-shirt. Will's probably a bit warm in a jumper.
Warm, yeah.
In theory, the forecast says it's going to rain a little bit tomorrow, and then after that we should be clear for a test match, which I find unbelievable, because when we arrived it was thunderstorms, apparently been like that all week. But as we said at the top of the show, or top of our segment, it's idyllic out here. Make sure to tune in live for every single ball on talkSPORT 2. The following on podcast will be with you every day as well, and as ever, of course, all the content will be coming to you on the YouTube channel as well. Make sure to tune in and see you then.
That was the Daily Telegraph's Will Macpherson chatting with our very own Cameron Ponsonby. Both will be in Dharamsala for the 5th and final test match. And a reminder, live and exclusive coverage on talkSPORT 2 begins at 3:30 on Thursday morning. And at 4 o'clock on talkSPORT, it'll be simulcast for the first session of play. And you can follow all of the action on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel as well. Head over there. You might already be here, actually, so welcome if you're watching. But if you're listening to the podcast, head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. Got exclusive interviews with Ben Stokes, also with Tom Hartley, speaking ahead of this 5th test match. He speaks about what it's going to be like bowling with Nathan Lyon. He hopes he's going to be bowling with Nathan Lyon. And there's plenty more. As Jarrod Kimber Super Over will be up following every day. The following on podcast is also up on every day of this India series, along with plenty of other content. But for now, thanks for listening to Following On.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.